Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Voodoo Val, and I am going to be your host today for a super epic segment with the one, the only, Elise Swopes. I'm super excited to kind of dive into what we have planned, but I'd love to pass things over to you, Elise. Just kind of introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are and what we're going to be working on today. What's going on for this afternoon?
Well, first of all, this is a thrill to be here with you, Val. Seriously, I've been doing Adobe Lives for years, and I always know that your name shows up all the time. So I'm thrilled to be with you today and everybody else who's joining us.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, seriously, this is so amazing. And so yeah, I'm really excited to be here again, and so happy that you all are joining us. And my name is Elise Swopes. My last name is Swopes. But I've been a content creator for over a decade now, and I've been working with tons of different brands, from Adobe to McDonald's to Uniqlo to Cubs and Lyft, and literally everybody you can think of at this point, and have really enjoyed my process from photography to video to illustration to tons of public speaking and teaching. And so I'm really excited to be showing you a video today that I created that's kind of surreal, a little different, and kind of thought outside the box. So I don't know if you want me to show you the example, but that's just a quick little tidbit of it.
Yeah, we can dive into, if you want to kind of show us. I know you wanted to show your website, but both of those, if you want to see. Yeah.
I'll show you really quick what we're going to do. Now, just a little backstory about this concept. Now, this idea has been in my head for a very long time, literally more than 5 years. And I was just waiting for the perfect opportunity to utilize it for a project. And when Adobe came to me and wanted me to really highlight the different things that you can do with Premiere Pro, I said, this is a perfect opportunity. So here we go. Hey, I've got some tips for you.
Yeah, sure.
And I really wanted to play with perspective, with different tools that you would, normally use. Different sounds.
Yeah. Shh. Well, this is awesome.
Thank you. Anytime.
Oh, I love it.
The cool part is when you're playing it, and this is something that I'm always super careful about when creating, is I always want to make sure it loops. So when you are watching it on social and it kind of goes back around, the chair is in the exact same spot as before. So
yeah.
Something we'll obviously discuss in our edit. But yeah, I have been on Instagram since the early days. People used to call me the Insta Queen or the Insta Goddess, because I was telling everybody in Chicago about what Instagram was. I mean, these are the days when no one really was using their phone to create at all. And so over the years, as Instagram made me a suggested user, and I just started sharing a lot of my artwork that I made on my phone, I just started getting a lot of different brand partnerships, and just had a lot of travel, and I even worked with a lot of prominent celebrities on a lot of different fun things, and it's just been an amazing process. But I will say one of the most exciting things to me personally has been my ability to kind of say yes and figure it out later. And I will be honest, a lot of the video that we're going to be doing today is a culmination of that. Because I'll have an idea in my head, and I'll, kind of write it on paper and kind of organize it in that way. But then when I get into the position of shooting it, I'm like, okay, how do I accomplish this? I know I have it all in these baby steps, and that makes it a lot easier. But now that I'm at this baby step, how am I going to make this idea come to life? So that's kind of like what we're going to talk about today, which I'm super excited about. And over the last couple of years, I've had a lot of success with NFTs, and also been the Premiere Pro splash screen, which was super, super fun over the last couple years. But I had tons of different partnerships with just tons of different people, and have really found a lot of success with just teaching and educating and showing people like how they could have all of this opportunity as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm here today, to, inspire people and give them my secrets. I think the biggest thing is like, it doesn't matter how much you give away your secrets to people. People will always put their own spirit, their own style, their own thought on it. And that to me
Mm-hmm.
is what's most exciting about giving all your secrets away and all your tips and tricks.
I can't tell you how amazing it is to hear that, because I think that the secret of the art, the secret of the process and everything should be shared freely. I know a lot of people guard their secrets like crazy, but I think that the more tools and the more advice and the more training you can put out there for other people, the more beautiful the world will be. So I love to hear
100%.
you say it. And just a quick comment on your website there. I don't think I've ever seen a more impressive lineup of clients. You go, girl. This is amazing.
Thanks.
Like, you are killing it here. And I love to see it. I'm very excited to dive into your process today. And I love what you said about, this is kind of a brainchild that has been like kind of waiting in the wings, right? For manifestation.
Yeah.
And I would love to just, kind of as we dive into that, to hear you kind of talk about what that feels like to have a project on the back burner for a long time. Because I've been in that situation, and I'm sure there's tons of people in the chat today who probably have a project or two kind of waiting in the background, to one day sort of come to life. So I'd love to hear not only about how you put it together, but like what it feels like to finally bring a project like that to
Of
life.
course. Well, I'm showing right now, I've got the creative treatment up of
Okay.
how I basically had to type everything up, what was what was the expectations of, what I was supposed to create. And I really had to like make sure that it hit all these certain points, but I also needed to make sure that I was, making each of the little parts make sense and breaking them
Mm-hmm.
down so that whoever was approving of them, it made sense to them. So, but yeah, I think the biggest thing about doing something like this is, and especially when you have an idea and you're almost like incubating it for this perfect opportunity, I will
Mm-hmm.
say that like the perfect opportunity doesn't necessarily exist,
Mm-hmm.
but the feeling that you really want to have when that opportunity comes up is what you are almost looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I sometimes there'll be an opportunity that will come up and it sounds exciting, to my mind, but to my spirit, it's just not the moment for it to happen because
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy to do, or there's an obstacle, or there's other things that I just need to accomplish first. And so what I've noticed throughout time is like when I kind of hold off for that quote unquote not so perfect moment, but that perfect feeling, that enjoyment, that excitement,
Mm-hmm.
that those moments come whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's this beautiful thing about life where you just have to trust that when you're building and you're thinking and you're talking to people and you're practicing your skills to really get to that moment, you will have this amazing opportunity to perform.
Mm.
And it's really, really exciting. So that's what I love about video, honestly, so much, is just this unbelievable opportunity that we get to like transform reality and get to dictate like every frame that's in our mind.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I love Premiere also for that. I mean, hashtag ad, I don't even know, but like this is real life. It's like I genuinely have so much excitement when I get to mask things and distort things and like really actually make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really cool. It's
It starts
really
to
good
fall into
feeling.
place, and I
Yeah,
think I know what you're talking about. Like, you can wait for that perfect moment, but this is art,
this is
and
art.
I think that more times than not, instead of like constraining myself to a schedule and like this has to happen, boom boom boom, XYZ fall into place, you kind of more get like that feeling in your chest, like, oh, it feels right. It's just, kind of
That's
coast on that
it.
feeling. Yeah, there it goes.
It's almost like a nervous weirdness. Like you're almost like, oh my God, did I just like solve like the
Hmm.
world's mystery? Like I almost feel like I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
Whew.
Is this happening? It's happening, I think. It's like, yeah, and then you kind of talk about like going for something and just kind of like trust in the process and letting it go, and almost like you're, you know, you have a process, you have a creative way that you do things, but it's almost like an experiment, you know, kind of going out to see if
Yes.
something works. And speaking of Instagram and like this kind of way of doing things, it reminds me of that popular audio clip that's like when you have the "how hard could it be" gene. It's like you know what I mean, like you kind of just like experiment and go wild and go crazy, and like you said, I'm gonna
Absolutely.
say I'm gonna go do something, and I don't know quite how I'm gonna do it yet, but it's gonna fall into place, I'm sure of it, you know.
I have
But I
never
feel that.
known anything. And I don't think if anyone says that they know exactly what they're doing, I would not trust them
I don't
entirely,
believe
because
it.
I think anyone who really knows anything knows that they know nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest obstacle for any creator, any person in life, is that they fear that they don't know enough to get to that point. But
Mm-hmm.
none of us know anything. We're just saying yes and we're figure it out later. And this
Mm-hmm.
is how I even got to making video, was that I was just like, gosh, I'm just jealous of my friends who are creating this amazing high quality content in 2017, 2016, where I'm like, I want to do that. I'm tired of
Mm-hmm.
doing still. I have a whole other story to tell, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I ended up hiring a video team to tell my story. And then when I got kind of tired of them not telling it the way I wanted it to, then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take this and
I'll
I'm
do
gonna,
it.
I'm gonna do it. I just I was like, what are you using for that? How do you, I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like,
I
picked
could
up
do
here
that.
and there.
Let me try
And
this.
yeah. And it honestly, that's exactly what happened. And you just have to kind of put yourself in the position to like be super uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but the uncomfort will change to comfort. And then you'll get that a second uncomfortable. You're like, okay, I need to grow out of my shell again. So
Yeah. So how
yeah.
did you find that feeling with this project? Because I see you got it all pulled up. Like,
Yeah,
what did
I've
this
got
look like in the beginning and now?
oh my goodness. So you're looking at all of this here, and I'm like pulling it up a little bit because there are layers, honey.
Mm.
We
Oh
got
yeah.
layers. We have different little things that are happening here. We've got graphics, we've got adjustment layers, we've got screen recordings, because you'll also see that we utilized some Premiere Pro like, UI
Mm.
that's in there.
Yeah, yeah.
um and that to me was like super important, because I really wanted to make sure that people got the feeling that they were also editing, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole video is really just about those different perspectives of me editing outside here, and then you're going inside of the program, and
Mm.
then you're also going where I'm at on this end. It's like such a fun kind of magical kind of thing that I think it's required. And it required just these different kind of elements with graphics. I had to like search the different little cursor and make sure that these were made, because I made these in Photoshop as well, or maybe in Illustrator, I'm not sure, I don't remember. But just making sure that these things were like matching exactly to
Mm-hmm.
what it looked like in the actual experience. And that too, in turn, what I really wanted to do was make people understand how maybe not so much easy it is, but how like approachable this program can be, because you see
Mm.
that there's just these kind of tools that make sense, and and you can do it too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had fun with it though, and I'm excited to kind of walk through it with you when I have no idea really what I did.
Well, we have some folks in the chat saying, you know, as soon as you're too comfortable, you need to change it up. This from Joshua. A
Yes,
lot of
Joshua.
people excited to see. Jose saying,
Yay.
I'm new here, would like to learn to create just like you guys. You're fantastic creatives. Love your
Welcome.
works. Very kind. And then Joshua just kind of commenting on the preview of the project he shows, saying, I love how you're playing with the fourth wall and not ignoring it. You know,
Mhm.
like it's not a hint, it's like I'm here, you know, and just this interaction is just really really cool. So yeah, let's dive in. I love
Let's
seeing all the
dive
different layers.
in.
Want a closer look?
Of course. Okay, so we could start off kind of creating it from scratch, but I know that there's a couple things that I'll probably pull from here, just so we're not doing this for like 10 hours.
Hmm.
But just giving kind of like the tips and tricks. So Just thinking about, how I'm always just really making sure I'm referencing the bins over here in my projects. When I create a new project, I just like to keep everything over here so it's easy to reference and easy to kind of scroll through. You'll see that like I can kind of, hover over these different videos to kind of see what was in those videos, because granted, not every single video that I captured was the exact frame or video that I wanted. So sometimes, scrubbing through just makes sure that I kind of know what I'm grabbing. And then I'll also obviously have all of my sounds and everything. And then I've got my, cursor and stuff and these little pieces that are easy for reference and my screen recordings and things like that. So just having all of those prepared and easy to reference is absolutely crucial for me. But not just that, but usually what I do is I also have my creative treatment up. So making sure that like when I am breaking these down, that when I'm looking for my video, that I can kind of place them in a row of the story that I'm trying to tell. So, in the narrative, it's me editing my office. Then I have this video of me tapping on screen. I'm exploring and editing in real life, and just kind of navigating that story. So when I come in here, I'm just kind of looking for those certain pieces that I want to use. And obviously in the beginning here, you'll see that was the clips that I utilized. Now, the biggest thing for me, and what you're realizing now is probably that I made this video in 2021, okay, when I don't even think like Reels was really like a thing yet. Maybe it was, but like not really. And if I could go back, I obviously would have made this into a 9:16, but it is a 4:5, which is not that bad. It's okay. It's cute. It's for post, but when I created that new sequence, I really just, new sequence from clip. And then I went to the sequence settings up here and just kind of like, just adjusted the 4:5. So we did, 1080, 1350. And I noticed that this is 60 frames per second, which is not necessarily that serious for this, considering I should have like did something else anyway. But that's a whole other conversation for social, and thinking about how you're kind of changing your frame rate to match what Instagram is at, which I think is like 30 or so. And that just has to do with like quality and rate. But for now, we'll just keep it where it's at. But the main focus I really just want to get at is considering, and I guess I want to just ask the audience more so, do you guys want me to start from scratch, or do you guys want me to kind of hop, skip, and jump and kind of show you the ins and outs of what I've already created? I kind of want to see what people want to say.
Yeah, why don't you folks let us know, what are you leaning towards? And I guess the another question would be, which of those options would help you to learn more, that you would feel comfortable with, so that you feel like after this you can dive in and maybe do something similar in your own right. So let us know. I lean towards personally starting from scratch, just so that I can see, like, if I open my file, and I don't have anything down, how do I put it into place? But also, maybe you could always do like kind of a mixture of both as we go along, doing some things from scratch, peeking at some stuff that's already done. Give us a little Martha Stewart, once you do this, here's the finished pie, kind of vibe.
I've kind of always felt one with Martha, so this makes sense with me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's
Joshua is saying, by the way, sorry to cut you off, but Joshua is saying, show us your workflow and how you enjoy setting up your project. It looks like maybe that seems like a scratch type suggestion. Surge saying, I always like to see how people combine After Effects and Premiere. Not sure if you use both.
Sometimes.
Jessica saying same to Joshua about showing us the workflow and stuff. So maybe a mixture of both, maybe just kind of whatever feels right for you, and folks feel free to chime in along the way.
Yeah, please always let me know if I am giving you too, like, sometimes the audience is barely new. Sometimes they're, they're like, okay, this is boring to me. I want a little bit more. Give me the in-depth, give me your mind. So I always want to make sure I'm giving the people what they want, I get that. So let's start a new one then. I basically right-clicked on in here. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's behave now. So I went up here and I found my file, and I noticed that this is the one that I want because I've got my chair matching. So I'm going to go ahead and do a right click, new sequence from clip, and I already went ahead and did that. Now from here, I'm just going to go to some sequence settings, and then I'm just going to change them to what we were at. I know it says that sometimes, but I'm not sure really if it matters much, but I'm just going to make sure I'm rotating my clip here in the effects controls. Now I think the scale of this is kind of wonky, so I'm going to go about 50% and scale this back out. But that is what I will do after I am placing my clips. So let's get our life together first.
And as you're placing that's so relatable. Let's get this together. Come on now. But as you're placing the clips, one of the things that I personally am interested in learning, and I'm sure some other folks are curious too, is like the art of that loop, like choosing the clips so that it does loop around and stuff. And I'm just curious as to what you keep in mind. And I'm making the assumption that now would be like when you start to think about that, like what am I choosing as my first clip, and how am I imagining that this will line up towards the end? If you have any advice, I would love to hear it.
That's an amazing question, actually, because that part has nothing to do with this moment. It has everything to do with your pre-planning. You have to make sure that the image or the video or whatever that you're capturing, you have to take that and capture it at the moment of. So you'll notice in this clip that I basically captured my beginning and end. So this is the end clip first. And then I came back, went back in, and then I shot the beginning. Okay. So this is one fluid clip. So that means that I can kind of clip it right in the middle here. So that's my beginning and end.
Oh, brilliant.
Absolutely. So that's why planning is a million times more crucial than anything else when it comes to the surreal kind of different playing around with this reality type stuff, where like you really got to make sure that like every piece of the puzzle you've captured and thought about. And I also, like, when I'm taking these videos, I've got a whole printed out list of that pitch that I sent the brand, and I've wrote it out with a pencil and a pen to just know exactly, like, before I go to shoot, I know exactly what I'm going to accomplish. So I'll write everything down in order of which maybe not the video may go, but of which I need to capture it so that it looks visually in the end that it makes sense. So I actually captured, I think, this last than any of the other content I did, because this was one of the easier clips, I think, than anything else. So I usually do the hard work first. Okay. And I usually do that because, and I'll show you why. So I'll just kind of like start dropping these in. I think some of these are, and I capture everything of myself, so that's always fun.
Nice.
Where I am looking, so sometimes you'll see me like looking back and forth at the clip because I'm like, what do I look like? And I think some of these may not actually be the clips, but I may just copy them from over here for time's sake. But what I did was, oh yeah, it's this one. Copy. And what I did to copy was basically just go to that clip, press it, click it, and then I just did a Command C, And then I'm just going to go back over here and make sure that this is chosen, this is chosen. I think this is like the layer choice, right? When I'm over here clicking on these things. Then I'm just going to do a Control V, and we've got that in there. Okay, so the next clip that I am going to put in there is this one where I was at a park. Oh, Lord. And people just kept coming in and out of the frame a million times.
No.
There is nothing you can do about that. It's not, I mean, there's a lot.
Just kind of find the right clips. I mean, would you mask people out maybe? Like if it really
never.
became an issue? All right. Yeah, so then you gotta like
it's the waiting game. And you know what what the biggest thing and what my point was, and I already forgot because I'm just like all over the place. This is how the mind works. Is the biggest point is like just making sure that I'm aware of and studying when the most popular time people come to these places. So there's a couple of videos for sure. And there's a couple videos that I've done in the past where I will have, or I'll take video on a street and I need an empty street. And so I will shoot specifically on a day where there's street cleaning so that there's no cars parked on the street.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And but the problem is that I have to get it that day. I have to get it that time. So when a brand comes back, yes. So when a brand comes back and they're like, oh, we just need this a little, the light. And I'm like, oh my God.
What do you mean?
Do you know
McDonald's? I can't do that.
Oh my God. Thankfully, the McDonald's project was illustration. So that I just like go into Illustrator and I'm fine. But the other ones, I'm like, please, God, no.
No changes.
Please. But yeah, so this one was fun. So you'll see like a ton of videos over here, because there's just a lot of different things that I'll have to kind of memorize. But I think the biggest thing with this is, and I'll just kind of show you why this part is one of my favorites. And go ahead and paste that again. Now I'm gonna go in here, and I love to get zoomed in here because I feel like I'm really entrenched in it. I have more control over what I'm looking at, you know?
I feel like I can visualize better what I'm doing, you know, and that's everything. I think when you're working on something like this is feeling at home in the space and like you have, you know, control over what you're altering. So
absolutely. And the thing is, sometimes I'll drag it up. It depends on how many layers I have, because if I start dragging it up like that, I'm like, I can't see nothing I'm doing. But since I'm so early in my edit, I'll kind of, you know, kind of pull this up here, and this allows me to see the previews of the clips. But and I think that's what it's saying to me, that the previews are not going to be what is that what it is when I'm resizing the sequence. Now I see it. I see it now. That's so funny. Yeah, everyone, that's what happens when you resize your sequence. Okay, so we've got this screen recording here that I did. Now I will hide it. And it's basically just a recording that I did by doing like a Command Shift 5 on my Mac.
Okay.
And I like shrunk the screen, the Premiere Pro screen, and I recorded it, and then I brought it into here and I did a mask over it.
Oh, perfect.
So you'll see here that, and I'll just like hide the mask, because you may be able to see the original recording that I was doing over it. I was watching like the actual recording of it. I don't want to lose my mask though. We'll go back. Okay.
I didn't even really think about that as like, if you have, it's not, you know, just throwing the look of that in there, like you have a piece of recording so that it really looks and feels like you're editing and in there working with the file. So oh, that's so cool. There's so much detail to this.
It's all about the detail. You got to bring people in for the experience, you know. And especially telling the story. I think story is just like so crucial, and realizing like what every piece and every kind of flow matters in the experience. And if you break that flow, you almost kind of like lose people in the reality of it. So
Mhm.
I kind of always want people to be in like this flow state of things making sense. So that's why you're almost always kind of coming from like either my office, you're
Mhm.
coming from like an or inside, or you're coming from an outside and going inside,
Mhm.
or coming from inside here, for an example, and going outside and then coming back inside. So you're always kind of like having this natural kind of flow that makes sense of
Mhm.
where you would be in your own body.
Yeah, like a
Um,
push and pull, ebb and flow kind of natural,
mhm,
organic feel to the progress. Yeah, I could see
absolutely.
that. I have a question for you, and this
Hmm.
is just maybe not the specifics of the video, but just if you think that you could offer some advice at some point on I feel like you have such an incredibly powerful online presence with like the work that you share, the quality of the work, the breadth of work that you share with the world, the different things that you do. But for me personally, I feel like I try to do a lot of different things, but one thing that I don't have that I feel like you do really, really well is showcasing yourself and your own personality in balance with the power of your work as well. Like I feel like when I look at your work, I see this incredibly professional body of work, but then I also see Elise. Like I see you,
I'm so
and
glad you think that.
I do. I feel like I do, and I feel like that's something I struggle with. Is like I would like to put myself right beside my work as well, but I'm not really that comfortable doing it, and I wonder if that's something that comes naturally to you, or is that something that you work at to like show those two things, or maybe you don't. Maybe I mean maybe that's not what you think you do, and maybe that's just something I see when I look at the work. But I would
I
love if
mean,
you want to talk about that too.
it's an honor that you think that. I mean, it's like the dream of any artist to feel that people see them as a confident creator. But
Mm,
of course, I have my doubts, I have my fears, I have my worries about
mhm,
not bringing enough value, not saying
mm,
enough, not being enough, maybe even doing too much
mhm,
sometimes. When people unfollow me, or I don't know, there's just all these different dynamics that I think are really difficult when expressing yourself, and
mhm.
especially when my brand and my life and myself is intertwined so heavily. There is
Yeah.
no separation.
Mhm,
So it means that somewhat of my work is 24/7, 365 for my whole
mhm,
life. um which is somewhat like, I guess, can in some way, shape, or form like be considered easy if you think about um like sometimes people will be like, oh, you have such a nice theme on your work, and my theme is really that I just choose from my gut, and I choose from my spirit, and I
mhm,
choose the things that like excite me.
mhm,
But on the other end, sometimes that can feel like, I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. Maybe if I did, create a certain theme that people are more used to, or had an aesthetic that was a little bit more consistent, or I kept up
mhm,
with certain trends, that maybe I would have 1 million followers by now.
mhm,
Like all these different like decisions I kind of have to make, and sacrifices on what will bring me joy, or what
mhm.
will bring me a perception of joy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So all of that to say, in a psychological way, I guess I think putting yourself in your work means that you have to believe in yourself more than anyone else will ever believe in you. And
Mhm,
you can't rely on any feedback. You can't rely on the analytics. You can't rely on even the opportunities that you get. You have to rely on that feeling that you get when you see something, and you almost, it's like this, like, I think people are utilizing jealousy in the wrong way. I
mhm,
think jealousy is this beautiful emotion where it's like, my God, I love that person and I want to be like them. And I can't wait to figure out how I can emulate the thing that I love about them. Right. And
oh my gosh.
you know
Oh
what
my
I'm
gosh.
saying? It's like this,
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
amazing. So that is kind of where, and I don't even know where I was going, but it just felt so powerful to say that. But
I'm feeling it. I feel it. Keep going. Keep
but
going.
seriously, I think it's just I think just trusting trust in the spirit, trust in the soul, that you are in your right process, and that
Yeah.
even if things don't look a certain way or they may not be what you expect, that you always have hope over
Yeah.
the expectations, because expectations are public driven, they're like success driven in a way, but like hope and joy is so much more. It's like this little ting of like things that no one else can have except for you.
Yeah.
So
I
enjoy
love
that.
it. And maybe this is, not only a discussion of the technical side of like putting all this stuff together, but
Mhm.
also kind of just realizing that you never really know exactly how you affect people, and you never really know what kind of confidence or worries or struggles somebody has that you admire. I think that we place a lot of our idols and our heroes and stuff on a pedestal, not remembering that those are people. And I feel like for a lot of years, and I've seen a lot of people do this, but for me, I see somebody that I perceive as like doing so well, and just assuming that if they're doing that well, if I
Right.
feel they're doing that well, they must have no worries. And then if I have worries, then I can't be on their level, because if I have worries, I don't feel like they look to me.
Whew.
And it's just not true. You gotta like
Yeah.
kind of remember. And I guess um if you can be worried about am I doing the right thing and stuff, and I think you're an incredible person doing all the right stuff. I feel
Thank
like
you.
if you have that human feeling of like, is this the right decision to make, and how is this going to go, then if I feel those things too sometimes, then no sweat. It's just part of being a human person. um
Yeah.
it looks like a lot
Literally.
of people in chat are loving this. Came for the video editing, stayed for the spiritual experience, stayed for the emotions.
I owe it. Honestly, it's something with me. It's impossible for me not to bring the emotions. Like
Hmm.
it just goes
Yeah.
so well together. And if I've learned anything about being an artist, and especially a public facing artist, is you have to make sure that you're emotional, you have emotional stability in a way
Yeah.
that's healthy,
Yeah.
because if you allow the world to dictate the way that you behave, the way that you create, the way that you
Hmm.
live, it's detrimental to your health.
Yeah.
And I've learned it
Yeah.
the hard way, and I
Mm.
hope that I can spread it to people. We all got to learn it the hard way. So
Hmm.
good luck
Yeah.
on your journey if you're
Yeah.
on
Good luck
it.
on this adventure. But share it. I think I felt the absolute worst in my career and my art journey when I assumed nobody could feel as lost or confused as me, and didn't
Mhm.
share those feelings, because I thought people would think I was lame if I was having a hard time with that journey.
It's
But I'm
hard out
slowly
here in these
realizing,
streets.
yeah, everybody's having a hard time in their own way, though, and everybody's succeeding and doing great in their own way. And
Truly.
nobody's journey is your journey. Everybody's got their
No.
own thing. So
I
um
just graduated college last year after being a dropout for 13 years. Like, come on.
wow, yeah,
Come
you're just
on.
doing your thing.
We just do our thing. Just
That's the
do
dance I'm gonna do every time I feel that feeling.
doing my thing,
Yeah,
doing my
I'm just
thing.
doing my all right. So I noticed you've thrown some more
I did throw some
pieces
stuff
down
up.
here. So tell us a little bit. We'll kind of double back
Of
what you're
course.
thinking and what we're doing here on the timeline.
Of course. So we're still kind of dabbling with this different kind of perspective now that I am at my computer, okay?
Mhm.
And I'm still editing. Okay, I'll bring you down through the story real quick. I'm at the computer and I have no idea that I am myself inside of the computer is about to come out and talk to
Mhm.
me and guide me through this editing process. So, of course, when I'm capturing this content, when I'm outside in New York with all these dogs running around and the weather's crazy, the wind is insane, I've got to
Mhm.
have a plan of action. So, when I'm out there, I've got exactly what my vision is in mind. So, I'm recording, kind of looking around, and then I've got to run to the camera. Okay.
Mhm.
So the interesting part about this is like, this is not masked, and you'll see that I am running actually straight to myself in this actual frame. So I had to play that back in the exact same time of me kind of like, responding to it, which is
Mhm.
kind of funny. Um, and then I've got the which I've got to make sure is that I have, and I think this may be an old edit, honestly, or something, or maybe oh yeah, this is what's happening because they're not in order. And I think I pasted this twice. So I was going to say, why did I tap before I came on the other side? Okay, hold on. So we're coming through. And again, I got to make sure my story is being told. So we're
But
not
fitting
here.
it together like a puzzle and just,
Of course,
kind of going through the
Ripple
pieces you
delete.
have and making it make sense.
Yeah, I think I added too many pieces and it's not making sense. So we're going to ripple delete.
The ripple delete, by the way, I started using that religiously literally like 3 days ago.
It's everything to me. It's all that I know.
Do you know how many times your girl was sitting at her desk, like mass selecting clips and just trying to line it up and then wondering, why do I have these big like black screens in the middle of my project? It's because nothing's actually sitting next to each other. And if you ripple delete stuff instead of trying to do it yourself, it'll be a lot smoother. It's worth it. So ripple delete, folks.
That's all. Ripple delete is truly the future. It is the present, and it is also the past.
It is your friend, in fact. It is your friend,
literally. Okay, so I think we have a situation where I'm trying to figure out, and I can get confused with the clips. Of course, this is what happens when I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is perfect. So what I'm doing, just to get just a little background of what's happening in my mind, is that I'm just making sure that these clips match up to myself running. And it is as detailed as, and I'm telling you, this is as detailed as this. When I am in this frame, I have to be looking the exact way as in this, as I am when it starts in this same frame. Because it has to feel realistic that it's in that same kind of experience, because the person who's here is with me there. So what was happening is I was getting confused because when I was running up, it wasn't running up in this one. It was repeating that last frame. So now I say now I'm running up.
Technically, I mean, you are playing two different people. And I notice you're talking about telling this story to us like you are like sharing a script with us, and it's like, it's all you, but you're like, and she did this and I told her I'm gonna help you with this.
I love that. Like, that actually brings me joy because I would love to make movies one day, but
you could do it.
I believe it, honestly. So you'll see, I got the finger there, I got the tap, 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 gotta match the tap. And I'm shocked, I'm appalled. How could she chat with me this way? And I'm actually talking. Okay, so in our last one, we had something kind of fun happen where after this, I'm still kind of looking around like, what? And then I'm still talking to myself. But you'll see that there's this like really fun kind of like overlay that happens where now we're playing perspective again.
I clocked that when you showed us the preview like example of it, and I saw that on the screen. I was like, that's brilliant. That's so good.
Thank you. And if I could be 100% honest with you, I kind of stole this from somebody.
Hey, I mean, it's a concept,
Can I tell you who though?
Yes, please.
Who I stole it from?
Shout them out. Yes.
My old video team, Ren and Alex. Shout out to Ren and Alex. When they and I worked on a project for Apple, there was a project that we did with an iPad, and the iPad, we kind of like were working and we're thinking like, how can we show this perspective of like seeing through the iPad? So that is what we did at first with the iPad. Now I stole it for this. Don't tell anybody. No, they would literally
it's a
not
secret.
care.
No
They'd
one
be
will
so
ever
proud.
know. Your secret's safe with me.
Thank you so much. But it was just such a concept that I just became like thoroughly obsessed with. Just that interesting, different like perspective of like coming through the computer as if you are like the computer, right?
Yeah, you're peering through the screen.
But now you're not even just the computer, you're me in the computer. Like I am me after I've tapped, and now I'm shooketh that I can't believe this is happening. And how I made that happen was simply just taking a screen record over and I think this may have actually been a still. Is this a still?
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
think
ask,
that's
is it a
actually
still or is it a recording? But
it
I
might
mean,
actually be a recording where I didn't move anything, because it does look
but
like a screen recording.
rather it's a still or like if it were to move, I'm sure you could do that with like blending modes to get that kind
Mm-hmm.
of overlay to do it, which is just a brilliant idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a screen over here. Boom.
Love it.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That's all you gotta do is come over here to the opacity, get
Mm-hmm.
your layer, make sure you're at 100, test it out. And of course, I went through the different schemes. I could
Oh,
even
I
do
love it.
normal if I wanted with a little lower, but like it just didn't feel, I can't really see like,
Yeah,
still as
yeah.
much. So I went with the screen because it just really
Screen's a good
set
rule
all
of
the
thumb.
goodies off.
Yeah.
For sure. But that's a fun little perspective if anyone wants to steal that of your own, please.
Yeah. Do
Like,
it. I might try it just in
pass it
honor of
on.
this stream and try something out. I do have another question for you
I love
when it comes
questions.
to just like filming
Yeah.
all of this stuff, like you how worried are you about continuity from clip to clip, as far as like, because when it's one thing to like match up you sitting in the chair and doing that loop and everything while you're in a controlled environment in your office, but like when you go outside, like you said, the wind is crazy, the weather's crazy, as you film for a while, the sun position changes and light is different and all that stuff. What's it like? Because I can see it's windy there, and I don't know about you, but when your girl goes outside, I might accidentally catch a pigeon with this hair, and it's all over the place. Like how do you keep everything looking good? And is it like a serious worry of yours, or do you just kind of go with the flow with that?
Time is of the essence. That means you have to be, and I keep talking about it. That's why this whole thing is called from paper to I forgot what else it is, but it's like, just that concept of like planning to make sure your ideas are realistic. If I did not plan all of it ahead, know exactly where I'm going, know exactly what I'm filming, know exactly what position I'm supposed to be in, know exactly like how I'm going to edit it, it would take 10 times more time.
Okay.
And I've been through that before. The only reason why I know what I know is because I've learned the hard way again, where I wasted a ton of time. The video wasn't, continuous. I had to go back. I had like all these different things. So I just make sure that I plan as much as possible. I, location scout as much as possible. I time scout. I Google scout. I, approve scout like through everything.
That makes sense.
And it is the only reason why a majority now comes out the way it does. But at first, obviously, very, very difficult, extremely time consuming, not smart.
And I've done that before, where like you film, maybe not me filming myself outside, but like filming footage even for just like a process video or something, and realizing 2 days later when I've got 5 hours of footage for a 5-minute video.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I'm learning the hard way right now. That's what this is. That's the feeling that I'm feeling right now.
Absolutely are. And I have to tell my fiance all the time, because he helps me capture video sometimes. My fiance, Trash Hand, if anybody knows who he is, he's the best photographer in the world. Not biased, I promise. But he will sometimes like capture like long videos, and like he'll kind of like move around a lot, like making it really like kind of cinematic and stuff. And I am more like, okay, capture 10 seconds, stay still, and that is all I need.
Yep.
Don't do any more, because you're gonna have too much to dig through, and then you're gonna want to clip things together. And when you move around a lot, you have to stay in that motion.
Yeah.
And so my greatest like advice, if you are trying to film, like don't do the post move, do the movements post.
Yeah.
Like stay still first, capture what you can, because it's easier to work with versus kind of making everything kind of flow in that kind of movement way.
Yeah, I think
Unless you planned
a great idea. Yeah, do it in post, or yeah, like you said, unless you planned it to be a certain way. But I think it's one of the worst creative feelings, artistically, is like to sit there and realize how many hours of footage you have for like an Instagram reel, and then you're like, what did I do?
Why?
What have I done?
What? why? And then you have to scrub through it all. You just have to hear
Yeah.
your voice like a million times. You're like, why?
Oh my
What is
gosh.
this? What
I think two things in that situation. Number one, I think if I can offer any advice on that is realize that however long you film, however much footage you have, however long it takes you to film it, you have to spend at least that much time going through it. So if you film for a day, you're going to be there for 2 going through it. Please keep that in mind. It'll save you a lot of heartbreak. And then the next thing is when you go, not only to add insult to injury, when I go through all that footage that I make of myself and I listen, I'm like, why didn't nobody tell me I'm nasally? Why did
That's me right now.
Yeah. Because I sound really cool in my skull, like when I hear my own voice, I think I sound pretty cool. And then I hear myself, in a recording, I'm like, nobody told me. Wow.
So funny.
So
how could they?
Yeah.
I know people got us out here, man, looking crazy. The other night I had I was wearing like this really cute outfit, and one of my like the little things was like inside of the jacket, and no one told me until literally like an hour after I was at the event. I was like, no, does no one love me? Does no one
does nobody want me to look on point this evening?
Shocked and appalled.
I promise you, if we ever see each other in person,
please,
and you're having a wardrobe malfunction, I will help you get it together. I will not leave you out there looking lopsided. I will never do that to you.
I was lopped. Crying. I'm literally crying.
I'm feeling this in my soul. I'm relating to this spiritually right now.
I cry when I laugh, and this has got me. This has got me, and now the floodgates have opened.
Oh man, this is great. I'm so glad to be here with you today. I just thought I'm gonna take a break and say that this is so much fun. And everybody, just to kind of like check in with chat. People are laughing their behinds off. Annika says, "In my skull." You know what I mean. You hear.
I know exactly what you mean.
Own brain, yeah. The universe will give you gems. All you have to do is press record. This from Reverb Mike. I love that. Annika saying this is such relatable content. What am I doing with my life? Yeah, it'll make you ask that question. You're going through hour 7 of stuff for a 10-minute video. # real talk. A lot of people loving this in the chat. I'm so glad everyone is enjoying it. But yeah, let's continue. Take a break and go for it. What's going on now?
Of course. Okay, so this one is a little bit more complicated. Okay, now why that is because we have this new PNG item that we have added. And I'm gonna zoom in on it so you'll see where we at with it. And I'll say this, I was pretty damn brave, excuse my language, to wear stripes in this. Because apparently that's a no-no. Okay, I don't know, I didn't realize.
Is it because of like the video quality and distortion, or is it just stripes in general? I
will be 99.9% honest with you. I don't know where the 0.1 goes, but I think it's because that the video distorts. I have no idea otherwise.
Well, I've seen some weird distortions myself, just with recording and stuff, and typically what I worry about is like what to wear if I'm gonna chroma key stuff, because I use a green screen a lot. But sometimes, like when I'm recording, especially with a green screen, wearing stripes and patterns can just mess it all up. Like it gets weird. But it looks good here. You got away with it, Elise. You got away with it.
I'm so glad. That means so much to me, because I got away with that pretty barely. But you'll see over here that we've got this little PNG that I added, and I just found that on the internet. A free little PNG item. And it's just like every kind of cursor that we've got on our computer. Same kind of one I'm playing with here right now.
Love it.
And so added that in, and what's happening here is that we want to make it so that I am now showing myself how to change the color of the frame. Now, how I did this mouse or this cursor kind of moving was I did a position like a
Keyframe
keyframe.
yeah
Uh-huh.
okay
Mm-hmm.
love it
Yeah, thank you for yeah, because I
keyframe
was like, what? I
magic
had to like hover over it because I was like, what is this called again?
sometimes that happens I forgot what the pen tool was called one time and I was like this is my
Bless you.
job
Yes.
this is my living
It
it
happens. And can
happens
I tell you something why that happens?
why
And it's has a lot to do with like, and I've learned this through meditation,
mm-hmm.
is the harder you think, the less your brain is going to think at
mm.
all. And sometimes it just goes blank. And when you're in an empty space, it just goes wild. It's just like the most strangest thing.
It's
Um,
I'm actually looking up right now because I think there's a word for this. And I just looked it up the other week, but continue on and I'm gonna find this word because it's like a legit condition thing that I think we all experience.
of course, of course. But I I think the biggest thing with this is like just making it as natural as possible. And with this positioning, I think I started it up. Yeah, I started it up kind of high, came down low, kept it over the frame, making sure it's over my original piece so that it looks very realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And just putting those pieces there. So every time I kind of dragged it over there, I wouldn't do it this far away. That's too much for me. I'd have to zoom in here. And I will be honest, I have to blow my nose. So I feel like I need to do that before I continue.
We can take a quick intermission
Let's
break
do
if
a
you would
quick
like to
intermission
do
because
that.
your girl has to blow her nose
Mm-hmm.
after tearing up a second ago.
We will do that. Give us a sec, folks. We will be right back. We are gonna do top secret business. We are back. Nothing to see here. We are ready to get back into our designing. This has happened to me as well as I was just telling Elise, human beings. That's what happens
You
sometimes.
guys, you don't want to see my nose dripping around here. It would not be cute.
We're gonna hide it. But also I did find the phrase I was looking for,
Okay, yes.
Elise. So it reminded me, what you're talking about reminded me of the same thing that I feel like when I'm designing something and I'm looking at copy and you stare at a word until it doesn't look like it's spelled right anymore. It's called semantic satiation, I believe. And it's literally if you stare at a word or phrase, your brain is like, I don't know what that is, and I feel like I feel
Happens
a version
often.
of that sometimes when I'm like really overthinking my process or really overthinking
Yes.
the position of something in a design, in a video edit, in a graphic piece, in a painting, whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm staring at it so long, then I feel like I can't tell if it looks good. Just like
Absolutely.
sometimes you take a break from your work and you come back and you're like, nobody told me it was lopsided. Like the dress, like, like the outfit is like, no, nobody told me this was lopsided. I didn't know because I've been looking at it too long. I've been overthinking it too much. So yeah,
Seriously. Oh
it's
my
a thing.
gosh. It's a true thing. Or even when even sometimes when you're looking at your work at the moment, you're like, this is not good. And then you come
Mhm.
back later and you're like, dang, this
I
is
did
actually kind of
this.
nice.
Yeah, I made this.
You
Or
gotta take a
the
break. We have to
reverse.
take a break from things like that, because it
Yeah.
resets. It resets how we see it.
Unless you make the mistake like me, you feel it in reverse where you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever painted. I will put this on Instagram. And I wake up the next morning like, my God, what have I done?
I know. That's also why we should take time.
Yes, take a break from it. Take a break from it.
Mhm.
I feel like you can never go wrong with a break. Sometimes longer than others, but it's always good to take a breath from the work.
Yes. And that also like kind of revisits this concept of like this video too. Is like just that idea that like I couldn't get out of my mind, something that just like kept coming up, like something that just like I needed to do. And that to me was like, it just, makes sense. And anything else that doesn't.
Yeah.
So boom.
So where are we at? Yeah,
we are at a beautiful position in our experiment because we are now playing with kind of like a pop-up kind of thing. where now my hand is coming up and I'm going to tap to show, where I can help myself with this Lumetri thing. So, I, again, did a screen recording, of a, piece of this, of the Premiere Pro. And I, just did this really interesting thing where I utilized this in a way where the mask would change based on when I would click it. So you'll see here that as it kind of expands out, and I'll kind of pull her out 150 here. See? But I really wanted it to kind of feel like that menu was kind of like dropping and
down.
Kind of had like this, a choice that this was very clearly happening. And to make that happen, we had to kind of come in here on the mask. We had to create a mask path. And that happened again with these keyframes. The same kind of way I played with the cursor is the same way I kind of played with the screen recording. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in here a little bit so you can kind of see where I placed these. But it also, I had to play not just with the masking, but also with the scale. And the scale was because you'll see that it kind of starts out, just as this small like thing that doesn't really exist yet. And then when it kind of pulls out, it grows.
All right.
And it'll grow to when it shows up here as a mask, or whenever it does at some point. Did I hide it? Where did it go? I think she's not loading for me right now. Let me pull it. Hit it.
Also, we got some links for Elise in the chat. Thank you, Sam Peterson, for posting. Definitely check out swopes.info. Check out her Behance, check out the Instagram, give her a follow, and all that good stuff. Keep up to date on the Swopes.
I appreciate that so much. Okay, I don't know what happened, but we got her back. So I'm gonna just zoom back in there and show you again how we kind of got it to kind of come out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I did like a little scale there. Yeah, it kind of like disappeared for a second, but I think I hit delete on accident or something.
Okay.
So we've got the screen there, and then you'll see that it starts off pretty small. But the thing is, I really want to show you, and I need to zoom in a little bit for this, is that when you're looking at this in the motion and positioning, the biggest thing is keeping this little thing at the corner of the graphic, because that's where it's gonna pull that scale from.
Gotcha.
And for example, if I was to pull it, over here or something, I think it would pull back over there. So you'll see it like kind of pulls back into that corner. Yeah. Well, I really wanted it to be there because on this end, because it's utilized by that cursor there.
Awesome.
So that was just something like a little trick, obviously, that's like super crucial if you want to make sure that your motion is synced to how you want it to be. And again, you'll see it's like super right there. So, and then I also have the mask, which is super crucial for that kind of thing that I was talking about, where it kind of pops out. So beyond it kind of pulling out in this kind of fun way as this new menu, it's also going to drop down. So that drop down happens thanks to the mask path that shifts right here.
Nice.
And this these little dots there, all those keyframes there, and then got a fun little experience that you now feel like you're kind of in the menu.
Yeah.
And you'll see that it so now that I look really close at it, it's kind of like goes over itself a little bit, but there's two cursors here. And you can maybe catch it like for a second right there.
For just a moment.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? So that's so subtle though. I would never pick that out. I don't think.
Then that's fine. That's okay. But the point honestly is that when I recorded it, that I had to keep my own like cursor in there so that when I highlight over those, you know, pieces that it looks realistic. So, you know, when I'm highlighting the Lumetri color,
I
that
didn't even think of that, but yeah,
for
it
sure.
would have to be there. Otherwise, how are you going to open it and highlight all the things to go down the drop down?
That's
Oh,
more work, right? You
yeah,
know, it's like a
yeah.
whole thing. So I just made sure to, and from here, and the thing is too, is like knowing that people are gonna see this on their phones, you know, see it in passing, maybe in way that they're really watching it. But no, I don't think anyone is really like going 400% like I would. So I honestly would care less about that little thing. But yeah, so that's kind of like how really get that perspective going. And I think from there it's kind of like a little bit, ooh, oh Lord, getting colder out. Get back in there. Okay. Now after this, it's a little bit of a similar kind of pull. We're kind of like creating, we're adding elements. And I'm just gonna paste these in there because then we're gonna get to our adjustment layer. Copy these, dig deep into there. I feel like I just copied one that I didn't want to copy. This is when it starts getting complicated, when you have all these different layers and you're like, what does this look like?
Yeah, and that's one thing too. Once you really start kind of filling up a project, do you ever color code things to keep your place or anything like that? It's like probably like you asking me if I name my layers, and I'm like, sure. Wink. You know, I don't do it. Yeah.
And you know what? I probably should. I probably should. We should all do a lot of things, but when you're like, and this is like one of the most difficult things I think about teaching or showing tutorials, and this could be for like any creator who's trying to show like their behind the scenes and stuff. Like I think with a lot of us, we're always like, are we doing this right? Like, am I actually like using the program? Like, and I don't think that maybe they're and sometimes I'm just like, am I, because even with Premiere, like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And that's okay because it's a tool. It's not like we're supposed to know every single little in and out. And you know, when it comes down to the coloring, it seems like what I've done so far has been working, but like when I get to a point where it's not, the coloring will be involved because it seems it needs to be.
Yeah, honestly. And you know, I think like I typically, to be honest, when it comes to like for me in illustration, I name my layers when I stream so that I can instill that into other people, like, hey, you know, let's organize our layers and stuff. Personally, in my own personal files, I don't really name my layers unless I'm sending them to a client, and that's at the very end, you know, when I'm like, okay, let me get through here, and you know, I try to do it so that people see, so they know, but I'm like you, like I'm catching that wave of like creativity, and I don't have time to stop and color coordinate things and name the layers. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm hitting that hotkey and I'm dragging things in, and I'll worry about it later.
Exactly. No, I gotta figure out the organization later after. I think the file naming for Illustrator though, that is like the most crucial thing by far, because when you start getting into Illustrator and you get all these different, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even. That's one I'll never skip over.
Annika is asking, how long does Elise usually spend editing one video like this? Like, what is a process like this for you?
I mean, I will not sit. It really depends, because there are some videos where I'm like, I am obsessed with this. I got to get this out of my head. I know this is going to work. I've got all the footage. I've got everything. I got the plan. Like, I'm going to sit down and do this. And that could be like an all day situation from like 10 a.m. to like 7 at night. But other times, if it may take a couple days, but you know, when you get that adrenaline rush and you just feel like you're just like everything makes sense and you lose time, like that to me is
awesome.
Feels so good. Like, and I'll go to my fiance and I'll go outside, especially if he helps me shoot something, and I'm like, babe, it worked. Oh my god. And I've got like goosebumps and I'm like crying. I'm like, we did it.
I do the same thing. Like sometimes people are like, how long did it take you to paint this? And I'm like, about 2 hours, and they're like, wow, that's great. I'm like, yeah, but everything else took me 15 hours, like it
Yep.
was just, I was really on it, and I felt I was passionate. Passion can change, your whole workflow sometimes. If I'm
It's
passionate
everything.
about something, it happens like that. But if I'm just like in a regular mode, or if I'm struggling with something, it'll take me a long time. But when I do finish a passion project and it's really great, I go to my boyfriend and I'm like, you will never believe what I did today. Look what I made.
Seriously.
So I get it. So yeah, you go through and you actually have a lot of moments in this video where you have these UI things, and I'm actually really curious about this one that you're kind of hovered over right now, because
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you took a still or a video of the UI and put another video layered on top, or is that actually a capture of the window with the
That's
video
an
playing?
actual capture of the video and play. Yeah, mostly, if not a majority of all of the like just the Premiere Pro capturing, that is all with the video in it. And I usually just like to do that. I don't know why, but it just seems like easier for me to kind of set it up that way.
And why add an extra step? If it
Yeah.
works for the video like that, why
Yeah,
add two things to
exactly.
one moment instead of one?
For sure, so I like to kind of keep them in there. And even with this, I'm looking back at this a little bit, it's like there's kind of like a different frame in there, but that's okay because we're not obsessed, we're not perfectionists.
But you're still, you're
you'll
working
see that,
on
like,
it.
I'm here and I'm looking at this screen recording where I'm looking back, and I would have a problem with that now, where I look at it and you go back here and you'll see that I'm looking forward in that clip now. So that's okay though. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
I think too, there's something to be said about the quickness of transitions and stuff, and how much you can I'm going to say how much you can hide, but I don't mean it
So
to be like
much.
you're making mistakes, but like I've noticed doing more video editing, I thought that when people did transitions, when they clipped through, especially if you're doing like a paint process or something, that everything needed to line up perfectly. Like if I'm going to cut these
No.
few moments out, then my hand needs to be in the same position. No, you can straight up cut a chunk out of something and it does not align. My hand's on the other side of the canvas and it still flows. Like it just feels to the viewer like a passage of time.
Of course.
And
Of
it's
course.
that was a really interesting thing for me to realize, and I think that the same can be true here. Is like it might not have the same thing on the screen, but to me, watching it's a quick transition, just kind of flipping over to that, and in my brain I'm just like, she's editing and it's the same video and stuff moves around on the screen, and I
Of
accept it as
course.
it's canon to me, that it's fact.
Of course. And you're not as insane as I am.
Well, we don't know that for sure, but I'd be happy to compete. I'd be happy to compete if this is a competition.
Let's go.
And Annika's saying, I'm not sure if we already discussed this, but what's Elise's gear to record these videos? That's a great question.
Oh,
Like, what do you
yes,
use?
yes. So it does depend on what I'm trying to accomplish. Now, if we're doing like some aerial stuff, I love using my drone. But with this specifically, we used my iPhone, and then we also used my Canon R5 with a 24-70 lens for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then a tripod every single time to make sure the camera is steady.
Nice.
Still. Yes. I love my
Love it.
Canon R5. It's a beast.
What are you using? Is that what you're like, if you're using your phone? I'm curious to know what kind of gear you have to hold it, because I got some stuff. I actually, maybe I could even, I've got it right here. This is a really, I wonder if you've seen one of these, and
What you
if
got over
anyone
there?
else has seen it. I'm actually going to fold it up, and I don't want to take up the spotlight here, but
Please
I
take
think
it up.
that you would think it was really cool. Let me close it up just so it's cool if I unfold it on the stream, because then you guys can see. So I got this little thing that is for my phone, like for recording and making videos, and it's the coolest freaking thing. and it looks like a little box. And it's not like plugging in, but it looks like a little box like this. And it pulls out like this, and it pulls out, and this screws in like this, and I can pull it up. I can pull it like up and out here, and it bends like this.
What?
And this clips my phone. Like my phone is held right here.
You gotta send me a link.
Yeah, and I can turn it, and there's lights on both sides, and I can change the temperature of the lights, and it can sit on my desk, and it also has a remote control that Bluetooths to my phone. And it was like $45 on Amazon.
What?
And it's heavy too, like it's got a base, and so I could stand it up super tall and sit it on the ground and film me. I can set it up over my iPad. So this is what I use when I record with my phone. I will post this link. I will post this link on send it to you and put it on Twitter if you guys are interested. But I'd love to know what gear you have if you hold like your phone.
Drop it in the chat. We all need to know the
I'll actually
info.
Get it. I'll put it in the chat right now.
I'm impressed. You know what? When I see stuff like that, all I'm thinking about is how can I start drop shipping that stuff?
Yeah. This is valuable.
That looks like it'll make me money.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, that is insane because I'm looking forward to seeing how that changes our future.
Yeah, I'm gonna find this order, and I'm gonna post it in the chat, and then I will also send it to you as well so that you can check it out. But it's been like a life changer, honestly.
I'm shook
doing this, and so yeah, seeing you record and you having like, and you use multiple pieces of equipment and stuff. I wonder, like, what does your phone setup look like, and do you just hold it in your hand and do more organic shots, or do you have like a stand? Do you have a desk stand, a tripod, or how does that look? Because you do a lot of work on your phone, you know, which I think is so cool.
I do, and that's a good question. You know, I'm a free-hander. Because the only time that I really like need to use my phone is if I'm doing like a certain perspective of holding my phone. So for example, I did a project with like Marriott, I think, when I was in Spain, and I did this thing where I was like waking up, and so I had my phone and I like had it like, you know, with me. And sometimes it's a little bit easier, or if my GoPro, I guess that's also really easy to do, because I like jumped in a pool and the perspective was like I brought the camera with me, you know. So having that kind of like hands-on, kind of like shaky but like realistic perspective is usually the way that I'll use it for video. Or if not, I'll use a Ronin stabilizer, which is always nice.
Yeah, and you know, nice. I think that's a good, I like it.
Yeah, I
agree.
I like it.
I am posting the link in the chat, by the way.
Thank you.
So you guys can check out. That's the stand. It's $49, which I feel like for an item like this is like a good value, because I thought when I was looking for a stand, I was gonna have to pay like a crazy amount of money, and this is really great. They come in different colors and it's awesome, so you can check that out.
It's an investment because it will make you more money.
Yes,
people gotta realize, man, you know.
Also, I just want to check in and say that we have got maybe 10, a little over 10 minutes. About 10 minutes left, I think.
I'm gonna miss everybody. I'm gonna miss you, Val.
I know, I'm gonna miss you too. So if we could go, anybody in the chat, if you have any questions or anything that you'd really like to get answered before the end of the stream, please let us know. And Elise, if you had anything, you know, in the last 10 minutes that you really wanted to make sure that you touched on, or any advice you wanted to offer, just want to let you know, so you can do those things if you have any points you definitely want to touch on.
I mean, maybe they're not so much points as they're just reminders, you know, that like I have never made a video like this before and I made it, and I just hope that you know and understand that we have a redo and an undo for a reason, and there's just no way that you are going to break this, or I don't know what will happen, but you're not going to, you know, do anything that is extremely detrimental if you're testing and trying and just, you know, seeing what will happen. And my favorite thing about being a digital creator is that for that reason, we have this unlimited opportunity to test things out, to see how stuff works, to see how it moves and is utilized in the things that we imagine. And so, you know, don't limit yourself to what you know, but imagine and keep yourself limitless to the things that you don't. So
I agree 100%. And I think that I don't think I've ever seen a segment from you, Elise, where I did not come away feeling absolutely inspired and ready to create something of my own. I'm sure that everybody in chat feels the same. And maybe before we come to a close, we can also kind of watch the video that you showed at the beginning too, so we can watch through it as well before we take off, because that would be super cool. We don't have to do it just right this moment, but just, you know, before we take off, I'm sure everyone would love to recap on that. But yeah, so I think that there was you go ahead, and I'm gonna look through chat and make sure, because I'm pretty sure I saw another question for you, and I just want to make sure that I didn't skip over everybody.
I will say though, this may be one of my favorite pieces of this project.
Oh yeah, the when you were doing the masking, yeah, it looks great.
Isn't it so fun? Because it's like this funny moment where you're like, it disappears because that's what it does, you know, with masking, but then I just kind of come out like, hey,
what's up?
What's good? That was the trick. That's what you can do with Premiere.
I love it. So, and you mentioned something at the beginning of the stream, and that was designing icons or finding the icons to look like exact copies of what was in there. And that would have been one of those scenes, because you have like the cursor going. Yes. Did you like create them in Illustrator or find them when you could online? Because I kind of do a combination. If I can find the icon, then I will. But
the pen tool I found, pen tool I found, which I was lucky with, but the lines I had to create. And
gotcha.
I think I did it in Photoshop, to be honest with you, because the lines were a little bit softer in the way that I wanted them to be. Because it looks like that in Premiere. They're not as like rigid as you would expect. So yeah, I mean, I had fun with that, because I mean, when you are trying to replicate something, there's no better fun way than like really doing it.
Yeah.
Like, dang, that looks exactly like it. Yeah.
And I've been there in that situation. Like I created a tutorial for Adobe Fresco, and I was like, I want to show the icons on the screen, and then I was like, I can't find any images of all of the icons in the app, like as big as I need them. So I was like, I get to go in and like do these cool little like modular pieces of art that's basically recreations of these icons, and it could be cool. And then you figure out like, okay, I feel like I understand more now, because I'm like, what is that icon actually? I know what I think it is when it's this big, but now it's like I know what it actually looks like because I've had to build it.
For sure. Absolutely. Shout out to the people who made these cursors, man.
Yes.
They are amazing.
Yes, indeed.
There are real people back there doing the stuff, like designing these things for us. Shout out to you. Thank you.
They're brilliant, and they support us.
Amazing.
Jessica in chat saying Elise is the GOAT. I agree 100%.
That means a lot. I hope I'm one of those yoga goats though. I like yoga.
Yes, I like yoga too. And I like yoga goats and yoga bunnies.
I've never done it before, but I heard it seems pretty cool, so we'll see.
I've met many a goat, and they are fun.
Yeah. Yes. I just don't want it to pee on me or poop on me, and we'll be good.
Yep.
Good.
Just put a little pair of pants on him. But we've got about 2-3 minutes left, so maybe we recap our video, and you can give us some parting sage advice before we take off for the day.
Well, you know how I do. Okay, we'll play it back on here, because I think it'll play back for us really nicely. Drag her up, and then it'll also loop, and it'll show us our beautiful chair motion. And I will say, to be honest, I had to clip the first things so that it went faster because it's too slow and it kind of moves back into that position. So at the ending and the beginning, I had to speed up that chair going back.
Yeah,
So
so
never
it
be
looks
afraid of.
smooth. That's a good point.
Hey, I've got some tips for you.
Oh,
yeah,
are we lagging? Hold on.
It might just be loading the clips. Sometimes it does that to me.
True that. Let's go for halfer.
And I'm like, why aren't you smooth and perfect?
I know.
For you.
Where did you go?
Yeah, sure.
Love it.
All about that perspective, man.
Yeah.
And you gotta keep that smile up, you know, have fun with it. I gotta bring that energy. Honestly, I will say, the hardest part about all of this is making sure that I'm hydrated, that I'm in a good outfit, and that I'm not tired. Because being on camera and filming the same thing over and over and over again would make anyone very angry. So just you have to have like a really good, you have to have rest. And you have to make sure that you have a really good outlook and you have a good plan and you have to have fun with it. You can't get frustrated if things don't work out. You can, but you really have to have a good attitude.
Yep. I agree. And that is excellent sage advice as we kind of come to the end here.
Yeah, of course.
For our stream. Thank you so much for joining me, Elise. It was an absolute pleasure. I learned a lot. I laughed a lot. I had a good time, you know. Thank you, chat, for visiting with us today. Please give Elise a follow on all platforms to check out what she's doing next. And I hope to hang out with you again sometime, Elise. This was awesome.
There's no doubt. Appreciate you, Val. Thanks
Appreciate you too, girl. Adios, everybody.
Thanks.